I want to introduce to you Rosita, who is the Head of Solutions Mapping at the Accelerator Lab at the UNDP. She's going to be moderating this session and introducing the other speakers and the other presenters to this. So, Rosita, I'll hand over to you if that's okay, and then what I'll do is I'll share my screen for the presentation. So just give me the heads up where you want me to share the screen, but I'll hand over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Luke. And thanks to the team Verisian for giving us this opportunity. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Startup Spotlight session on air pollution. And I am Rosita Singh from UNDP India. And I'm part of the Accelerator Lab network at UNDP. And today's session is being hosted by the Accelerator Lab team India. And just to give you a little bit of an idea about what this Accelerator Lab network is, who we are. So the Global Accelerator Lab network of UNDP was established a year back in 2019. And we have around 60 teams that are covering 78 countries as part of this initiative. And our founding investors are the Qatar Fund for Development and the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development of Germany. So Luke, if you can go to the first slide. And I'll let you know for the next slide.
Apologies.
No problem. So this network is tapping into local innovations to create actionable insights and reimagine sustainable development for the 21st century. The network is currently expanding to more countries, and we will be present in 90 countries by the end of 2020. We call ourselves the Fast and the Curious, and we are trying to build the world's fastest learning network on sustainable development challenges. As you can see on your screen, the three functions or the three roles in which way we play out our strategy is exploration, solutions mapping, and experimentation. This is the common element and the common journey. We call it our toolkit through which we operate in all the countries. And our agenda really is to address today's wicked development challenges, not with yesterday's toolkit, but with the new age advanced toolkits. And we are here to do development differently. Now, if you can go to the next slide, Liu. So while scouting for solutions is one of our focal area, as part of this initiative, UNDP India conducted an innovation challenge last year in December, and we wanted to find technological solutions to address the problem of air pollution. Now, there are several institutions, including universities, research spaces, private R&D organizations, startups, and individual innovators who are involved in developing these solutions for air pollution. But we wanted to find them. And through the Scouting Innovation Challenge exercise, we reached out to a variety of these networks, variety of players in these networks. And finally, we found our three challenge winners who are here with us in this session. And the part of our agenda was not only to find these innovative solutions, but also tap into our knowledge networks to share these solutions, because we feel that tapping into knowledge networks is vital to mitigate air pollution faster. And our focus is a little bit more on system and policy level innovations, because we talk about an ecosystem approach in innovation. And we feel that we can effectively learn and transfer this knowledge through our networks. And with the spirit of sharing is caring, today we want to spotlight on these solutions, because we often speak about the problems when it comes to what's happening around us, whether it is environmental degradation, air pollution. But today we want to spotlight on the solutions. Who are these innovators? What are the technological solutions that they have developed? We will get to know that in today's session. So it is my pleasure to introduce you to the panelists for today. I will give a detailed intro before I invite them to present 5 to 7 minutes of their presentation. And then we would like to go into a conversation mode with them, asking few questions that are typically asked and that we have also received for this space. And we would really urge you to please tune in and also type in your question in the Q&A session throughout the journey of their presentation. And towards the next half of the session, we will pick up some of your questions as well. So first up, we have Mr. Prasad Borge from Pi Green Solutions. Prasad is the VP Sales and Marketing, and he's a versatile professional with expertise in sales, retail operations, information technology, service management. His drive is to contribute to the cause of reduction of air pollution, and which is why he has joined PyGreen, which is a clean tech company committed to providing clean air by indigenously developed patented technology. And very warm welcome to Prasad. And we would like to show, I would like to hand it over to Prasad, who also has a video for us to begin with. Over to you, Prasad.
Hi, good evening, Rosita. Thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon, Luke, and good evening to all. It's a pleasure to be part of this forum. Thank you, UNDP, for giving us this opportunity. So we are a clean tech company that is based out of Pune, Maharashtra. And just to give you a brief of what we do, we've got a small video to play. So it showcases what problem we are trying to address and how our solutions are designed to do just that.
Is our right. And this is what we see and experience today. The threat of global warming, rapid industrialization, urbanization, human behavior, and collisions towards the environment.
Luke, if you could increase the volume a little bit.
Sorry?
If you could increase the volume a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for flagging that up. There we go.
Particulate matter in the atmosphere. Particulate matter is the microscopic matter consisting of tiny air pollutants emitted from industries, vehicle and gensets, exhaust, firecrackers, burning of crops and garbage. It possesses serious threat to environment and human health. PM2.5 particles are smaller than 1/30th of the width of a human hair, which can be easily inhaled and cause serious damage to lungs and other organs, resulting in respiratory and cardiovascular diseases such as asthma, bronchitis, stroke, and cancer. Health experts opine that living in a city with 200 micrograms of PM2.5 equals to smoking approximately 10 cigarettes a day. Africa, Europe, Middle East, India, and China are the biggest danger zones of PM air pollution. The world's fastest growing economy, India, today has 15 of the 20 most polluted cities in the world. A report by World Health Organization states that some Indian cities have particulate matter levels 4 to 5 times higher than the safety standards. We are moving fast towards an ecological collapse, and it's time to take immediate corrective actions. We understand the problem, and we have a solution. PyGreen Innovations Private Limited is a tech-driven company rooted in innovation and design. We offer a unique series of indigenously developed products based on patented innovative filterless technology. Filterless. Yes, the products have no filter, hence avoid issues like choking, cleaning, maintenance, and replacement. We have applied for patents for this pioneering technology in India, USA, Europe, Japan, China, and Singapore. Carbon Cutter. Carbon Cutter is a revolutionary product specifically manufactured for automobiles and gensets, since they emit the maximum amount of particulate matter. It reduces more than 90% of particulate matter emitted from the vehicles and gensets, ranging from PM2.5 to PM10 in real time. This filterless, retrofit, fully automatic and compact device simply needs a plug-in installation and can be connected to the exhaust of any vehicle or genset. The smallest of the particulate matter is captured and is collected in a container in powder form and can be converted into usable elements like paint or ink. As a part of the innovation, Carbon Cutter has an inbuilt smart integration system. The concerned authority gets a notification through SMS when the residue container is full and needs to be empty. In addition to the particulate matter emission from vehicles and gensets, there is a huge amount of dust, smoke, and other harmful particles suspended in air that affect our environment and health. To overcome this problem, we have a solution. Repair. Repair is a filterless ambient air purifier that helps clean the air by capturing particulate matter, dust, smoke, and any other form of air pollution. It takes in the surrounding air from which the particulate matter gets conglomerated using scientific methods. Due to the self-cleaning mechanism, it gets stored into an inbuilt box, which can be detached and cleaned easily. Repair thus gives out 80% cleaner air. It has an inbuilt smart integration system, which informs the concerned authority via SMS when the container is full and needs to be emptied. It can be installed at locations with a high density of population and vehicular movement, as well as at the places with maximum footfall. The size of repair can be customized from 9 feet to 45 feet in height as per requirement. Its robust external surface is waterproof, with high ingress protection and low maintenance. It can be used for advertisements, integrating smart branding, displaying public welfare messages, and maximum brand exposure. Repair is a wonder product that can easily accommodate add-on features like plastic bottle reverse vending machine, CCTV cameras, and smart bus stops, assisting government bodies in their goals of better public health and services. Repair also helps corporates in their CSR initiatives with a far-reaching social and environmental impact. Our innovative and unique filterless technology is rated as one of the best technologies globally to reduce air pollution at Smogathon 2018 Poland. Pi Green Innovations Private Limited, committed to a healthier and greener tomorrow.
Thanks for that video. Thanks, Luke, for the support as well. So Prasad, that's very exciting to see your innovation. We already have a lot of questions for you. So we'll come back to you and during the panel discussion. And I would now like to jump into our next speaker, Mr. Sukhmeet Singh. So it's my pleasure to introduce you all to Sukhmeet Singh, who's the CEO and founder of a bioenergy company, A2P Energy. It is solving the huge problem of paddy straw burning in North India, which causes severe air pollution every year. Sukhmeet has won many national and international awards for his work on saving paddy straw from burning. And he recently also won the Global Changemakers Challenge in Russia, where we heard that he competed against 1,180 companies from 83 countries and emerged as the top winner in sustainable energy field. Many congrats, Sukhmeet. And it's a pleasure to have you here with us. So over to you, Sukhmeet, for your presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Rosita. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, we can see your screen, and you can go into the full screen mode.
Yeah, so now it's full screen. So the reason we started this organization, A2P Energy, we started in 2018. I am based in North India, specifically in Chandigarh, which is the capital of Punjab and Haryana. So in both these two states, 35 million tons of straw is produced. Majority of it gets burned. So a lot of problems related to health, economic issues with the farmers. So those were the reasons, we started exploring what can be done with paddy straw. So the first challenge for utilizing paddy straw was around the collection bit. So we made an AI-based algorithm to identify straw and then work with farmers. Second thing was about processing, and then once we processed, we made green fuels out of that. So I'll explain you a little bit on all these three steps. So this is our product line. When we started this organization, the first challenge was once it's collected, what do you do with straw? There is so much straw available. We started making fuel for boilers, which is our commercialized fuel, straw, briquettes, pellets. This was our first year products. We replaced some of the wood and coal in the boilers. We worked with companies like Unilever, Pepsi, and supplied our green fuel with them. Our next stage fuel line is basically coal, oil, and syngas, which is hydrogen or synthetic gas. Some of it we have already commercialized, like green coal. So we have already working with some of the thermal plants to replace the fossil fuel coal with our biomass-based green coal. And next set of products is into packaging, paddy straw, board, and cellulose. The idea is to work or go up to the higher value products so that some of that value can be passed again back to the whole supply chain and to the farmers from which we are getting the straw. This is our AI-based algorithm to identify straw. We use Google satellite images. We have trained our machine learning model to identify straw even before it's cut. So we work with farmers a few months before even harvesting the stubble, and then we identify areas where we want to go and collect. So this not only helped us to reduce our cost, but also helped us be preemptive to solve the paddy straw problem. I've talked about some of the fuel lines, but here, the first generation and the next generation fuel, I just wanted to make the differentiation is that the next generation biofuels are basically which are targeted towards replacing fossil fuel. One is we are not only solving the residue problem or the crop burning problem in the fields, but in the end, our goal is to actually replace fossil fuels also, which has a lot of SOx and NOx content. Specifically, the coal which we use in some of the power plants in India has a lot of sulfur, nitrogen, which are major pollutants for the atmosphere. We started in 2018, and in almost 2 years, we have established 4 plants. 2 are the full-scale plants, and 2 are pilot plants. Specifically, the 2 full-scale plants focus on hard fuels for boilers, and then we have coal and which we are focusing more towards the bigger power plants at the government scale. We identify or measure our impact for each of our plants. Specifically, the idea is how much impact at the ground level we make in terms of employment generation, more money for farmer entrepreneurs, displacing fossil fuels, and also promoting farmer entrepreneurs. So on one hand, we focus on working with good brands like Pepsi, Unilever, or government power plants. But on the other hand, we are very much focused to see our impact at the ground level. Some of the pictures you can see of how we have stacked this our storage area and some of our fuels. We have got good recognition nationally and internationally. We've won Global Makers Challenge. We work with some of the unilateral organizations like WWF and UN, and been featured in more than 30 press articles. I think, that's it from my side. Thank you.
This is really great. Thanks, Sukhmeet, and thanks for also showing us, so many pictures of the products and how you actually work on the field. So we'll come back with to you with lots of interesting questions. And then finally, last but not the least, I would like to introduce Mr. Sanjay Maurya. He's the co-founder and director of Urban Air Labs. And he's a technology entrepreneur focusing on environment with a background in science, engineering, and business. He's building clean tech solutions to improve upon the air problems associated with urbanization. He has a keen interest in organizing and solving unstructured problems. And he has a very interesting presentation on a nature-based solution, moving on from industry examples, now going to nature-based solutions. So over to you, Sanjay.
Thank you so much, Rosita. Thanks for the introduction. Excited to be here. Let me just share my screen. Yeah, is it visible to all?
Yes.
Yeah. Our company's name is Urban Air Labs, and what we do is we try to find sustainable and natural solution, targeting primarily the indoor air quality. And I'll directly jump into it. So as we understand the air pollution, broadly, we can categorize the air pollution into 2 broader categories: the outdoor air pollution and the indoor air pollution. While we do understand the outdoor air pollution, indoor air pollution, when you go deeper into the problem, it becomes even a major challenge just to understand how severe is the problem. Many organizations have done a lot of study understanding the indoor air pollution, and we have enough examples to say that indoor air pollution might be more dangerous, when compared to the outdoor air pollution. And why does that happen? Because the indoor air pollution tend to have a lot more contaminations present in indoor settings when you compare to the outdoor settings. Air is a constantly flowing phenomena, and in indoor settings, generally the contamination which generate inside the indoor settings can remain in indoor settings for a very long time, and that is why the indoor air pollution becomes even a greater threat. We don't just have the particulate matter contamination, but apart from that, we also find gaseous contamination and biological contamination coming out from different sources of pollutants. These are all furniture-based varnishes, human activity-based contaminations. So all in all, the problem of indoor air pollution becomes a very complex issue, and it should be treated from a very different lens altogether, not just think of the outdoor air pollution. To cater to the indoor air pollution specifically, we have taken a very fresh approach to the whole problem. We believe that the mechanical traditional air purification system, they tend to do part of the job only. They tend to focus primarily on the particulate air contamination. But since indoor air contaminations have many more contributor to the whole pollution, we went back to nature to find answers to those problems, wherein we also focus not only on the particulate matter, but rather on the VOCs, on the gaseous contamination, and on top of that, human activity-based contamination as well. So the product that you see, we call it uBreathe. It's a natural air purifier based on phytoremediation, which is finding remedies through plants and natural solution. What essentially we do with uBreathe is we amplify the natural capability of these plants to clean the air. These natural plants.
Sanjay, sorry to interrupt you, but we need to see your slides a little bit more clearly. Can you zoom in a little bit? Somehow the audience cannot see the slides clearly.
I'm on the full screen mode.
Can you reshare your screen? Because we also don't see your slides changing. So if you can just reshare again your screen.
Yeah, let me do that. Sure.
Yes, much better. So we couldn't see the previous slide. It was somehow stuck on the title. So thanks a lot. Yeah, if you can just show us that. Thanks.
Sure.
Please continue.
So definitely. So this is the product that I was discussing. So uBreathe uses the smart biofiltration mechanism, which is to use the natural capabilities of these plants to clean the air without using any external mechanical purification system. So the beauty of the whole solution is that it's a self-sustenance model, wherein you don't require any additional external filtration methodology, but rather the plants, they tend to clean the air on its own. And on the maintenance part of it as well, the plants tend to absorb its nutrients from the air itself. So you don't require any additional further maintenance for the whole product, for the plant, or any such things, but rather the purification capability through the product keeps on increasing. We have already filed for a patent in India for the underlying technology. We have gone ahead and tested the whole product in our own lab settings. Some of the results I would want to show. The product, the technology works well on the PM 2.5 as well, as you can see from the screen. Within 15 minutes, we were able to bring the PM 2.5 levels from 220 to 20. Similar was the case with the overall AQI levels in lab conditions. We took our product to real conditions as well. We started working with a few of the co-working spaces in Delhi NCR, and through our own testing and experiments, we got to know that the rooms, the cabins in which uBreathe were present, they had almost 1.5 times to 2 times better air quality than compared to the normal scenario. We were so confident with our product and technology, we even took it out to the smoking lounges, wherein you would find the AQI levels consistently hitting more than 50 times the safer limits, and a product worked there as well. Last year, we took our product to the market. We wanted to test the product out, validate the market. Some of the feedback that we received, was fantastic for us and have been the motivational, figure for us. Few of the things, our customers appreciate more is the aesthetics, the design, and the overall appeal of the product, because not just maintaining the air quality, it brings in the natural part into the urban lifestyle as well. People anyway wanted to keep these plants and natural things in their houses and in their offices. It's just that it wasn't feasible and more practical back then. We've been very fortunate to get recognition from national and international agencies. Last year, we represented India in Texas Global Summit in Thailand. More recently, we are also part of UNDP Accelerator Lab in India as well. And the overall objective of our work is to change the perception of looking at indoor air pollution and indoor air quality compared to the outdoor air pollution and air quality, and work on sustainable and green solution for the urban lifestyle, which is both functional and appealing to our consumers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. That was really a lovely presentation, and so nice to see a nature-based solution. And you also showed us the results. So those were very impressive results of, reducing the AQI indoor level. Can I please request now, Prasad, Sukhmeet to switch on their cameras as well, videos, so that we can jump on to question and answer. And I would also like to request those tuning in right now to please type in your questions in the Q&A window where you are watching this webinar. So first up, I would really like to, ask this question to Prasad. So Prasad, your innovation seems to have an application in the industrial units. The video explained really well some of the products that you guys have been working on. And earlier, I remember we were speaking about the impact of Jaggery units. Yeah. You spoke a little bit about this industry. So since there is so much pollution caused by this sector, we would like to really ask you and understand from you, what has been the industry's reaction and response to this solution? And what kind of partnerships are you currently working out to promote your solutions?
So to begin with, we identified that the generator is one of the major sources of particulate matter pollution. And the same has been highlighted in the NGT and the NCAP. So the National Green Tribunal has specifically ordered that we need to find a retrofit kind of a solution to sit on the gensets and reduce the particulate matter pollution by 70%. Now that is very interesting. The other option that they proposed was to move from a diesel fuel to the gensets and move into the gas. So the industry has obviously welcomed it. We've had a few conversations with the genset OEMs. And at the customer end also, we can we can see the excitement building, because we fundamentally are a power deficit country. So gensets will be a play, and we will have the gensets serving us for quite some time in the near future at least. So if my data center or my hospital is running on critical applications that make use of the electricity, the genset is a very big and an important part of my infrastructure. At the same time, when I use my genset, can I do something to reduce the footprint, the carbon footprint by doing this? So that's where our retrofit solution has played a very big part. So that is shaping up very well. It's very interesting that the Jaggery unit suddenly has become a very big talk of the town for us internal to the organization, because there are close to 1 lakh Jaggery units in the country. And if you have ever had a chance to visit, or probably if you've been traveling on highways where sugarcane is a major product, you would see very thick black smoke that simply doesn't disappear in the environment. And these Jaggery units are close to where the sugarcane crop is. And typically these are operated by marginal farmers who would have environment as the least of their concerns to address the pollution. So in the reports that came down from Karnataka also, the Pollution Control Board had seized some waste, the urban waste that the Jaggery unit operators were burning as a fuel to operate. And the kind of smoke that comes out is equivalent to hundreds of diesel vehicles pumping out the worst gases at a single point of time. So we've got a solution to curb that. We literally our solution eats up the entire smoke, and the places where we have installed this, the operators have come back very happily saying that now the villagers have no complaint against us. In fact, the biggest testimony that we got is that the neighborhood had come to the one of the operators of the Jaggery unit and asked if your operations are closed. So they could not see the black smoke ever after our machines were installed. So we look forward to corporate participation to fund these units, so that we could clean up this source and work with Sukhmeet's solution to get the rural the air pollution in the rural areas to contribute some part of us there.
So Prasad, actually we have a question for you from the live audience. So Mr. Dharmendra is asking a question. Probably he also missed out on your video. We will share the YouTube video also that you had presented before. But he's asking what are the solutions for air quality management? Particularly, he's asking what are the other sensors you're offering? So I think just to summarize for the audience and maybe those who tuned in late, if you can summarize the kind of solutions you're offering and sensor technology.
So fundamentally our business is to reduce the particulate matter pollution. We are not into monitoring of AQI, so we don't have any sensors that would give you the quality of air in terms of, we don't measure the AQI. First of all, we are there to reduce the particulate matter pollution, make air more breathable. So we don't work on AQI, thus no sensors to monitor it.
Sure. Thank you so much, Prasad. We'll come back to you when we have more questions from the audience as well. I would now like to actually, ask a question to Sukhmeet. So Sukhmeet, very interestingly, you were speaking about an issue that is very close to everybody, at least in North India, the stubble burning issue. And, so many stakeholders have really struggled to come up with a solution that also incentivizes the farmers. And you seem to have cracked the code with your model. So can you tell us more about how you achieved this and why did it work? What was the USP?
So thanks, Rosita. Yeah, I know this challenge has been there for so many years now, or probably so many decades now. When we started the organization, the idea was clear that everybody in the supply chain or the value chain should earn money. Then only the value chain actually becomes successful. So starting from the farmers, when we started working on the field, we thought that if we take straw for free for one season, probably next season we won't get it. So the business model was that starting from farmers to collectors to be called farmer entrepreneurs or who help us in the collection, everybody should be making money out of this. So that was the first idea, at least on the collection bit. Second thing was that there were efficiencies in the agriculture supply chain in terms of collection of the straw. So we decided to use technology to reduce our collection costs. So I work in technology for...
Sukhmeet, your voice is breaking a little bit in between. If you can try again.
Hello.
Yeah.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was saying we decided to use technology in each part of our operation, starting from collection. We started using Google satellite images to identify crop, even before it's burned. So that idea was that how do we reduce collection cost? There was a lot of research which was already done, especially in Germany, how to process straw, what machinery, what metallurgy to use. So we use that particular knowledge rather than doing R&D from starting. We use that knowledge to use the right set of metallurgy for paddy straw to process. From day one, the idea was how do you make something useful for the industry so that we get paid of whatever we make. So the first thing was if it gets burned on the field, it can be burned as a fuel also. So we started making fuel out of that. We faced a lot of challenges. This has a lot of silica in it. It causes problems in boilers. So we identified certain natural ingredients which can inhibit the silica causing impact on boilers. And once we had one particular product line for boilers, then idea was then move to next generation biofuels, which are more valuable in terms of oil or coal or gas, so that we are not only using a waste material, but also replace some daily use. So that was the idea, right? So focusing on value chain, focusing on value to all stakeholders use
So
technology.
Sukhmeet, your voice is breaking a little bit again. Do you want to change your spot or just re-plugging your microphone?
Let me change my network then. Maybe,
sure, I will. Yeah. So till you come back to us, I will, jump on to another question for Sanjay in the meanwhile.
Yeah.
Yes. So Sanjay, I think yours was a very refreshing presentation because, we speak a lot about outdoor air quality, but, you focused on the indoor air quality. So what do you have to say about the level of awareness about indoor air quality? And, how does your startup educate the different stakeholders and most importantly, your customers about this issue? Do they recognize immediately? What are the steps that you work on? If you can comment on that.
Sure. So, Rosita, in fact, we started from the thought process that, air pollution is a very big threat to everyone. It's a global phenomenon. And, government agencies, private and public sector, all of us are trying to do, take initiatives on curbing out the pollution, but it might take a very long time to get to a stage where we all have fresh and clean air. By the time probably 2 or 3 generations might have to go through a very severe air pollution condition. So we started from this. So we jumped to the fact that we anyway spend a lot of our time in indoor settings, in indoor places, be it your home, be it your mobile vehicles or your office spaces. 70 to 80% of our time is spent in indoors, and that is a place where we have some sort of control as well. So we started from this thought process. We wanted to understand the indoor air pollution. How is it different from the outdoor air pollution? Very quickly, we understood that indoor air pollution is even a complex issue. Not just the outside air pollution is coming into the indoor settings, but rather there are a lot of different sources which can generate these kind of contaminations. And because the urban building development is being done in a more energy efficient manner, most of the time we see that these buildings and these settings are very confined space. So whatever contaminations that builds up into these indoor settings, they tend to remain inside the indoor settings for a very long time. And that creates a major threat and a major problem. People even don't realize that they are living in a very severe air pollution settings, since most of us believe that if we are in our home or in indoor setting, so we might be safe, might be at least little bit better off compared to the outdoor air setting. But this has been the misconception that has been one of the most challenging part of our work, to cater to the same sort of problem. We started off by collaborating with few air quality monitoring startups and firms. The first step is to understand the problem, see what is the problem, how severe, or probably what are the kind of sources you might have in your indoor settings. So for example, I'll probably talk about a workplace wherein you have a conference room. You might tend to have a 30 to 40 minutes meeting most of the time. But when we went out there and did our own experiment, we found that within 5 to 10 minutes, the CO2 levels in the conference room, it jumped up to the twice the level which is described by WHO as well. And people did not even realize that. They started to sort of feel very dizzy. Probably they needed to take a break or something, but it didn't work for them. And that is the place where we tend to take very critical decisions. So these are some of the problems which we cannot even understand before monitoring these kind of different contamination. Have a very exhaustive kind of audits done for the whole indoor settings, and have a very keen eye to understand that yes, indoor air pollution can be a big threat for our workplaces or probably our homes. And let's try to have an active management of this particular problem as well, because not just the long-term effects, but the short-term effects on health, on productivity, on our lifestyle is a big challenge, and one of the simplest probably test or things that we could do is there is a very interesting test which could be done these days, which is the age of your lung test that can reveal how the air quality or the bad air quality has affected you over the last few years or so. I did it for me, and I was very surprised to see the results. My lungs aged almost 40 plus years, so that was really an eye opener for me. So overall, you need to have a very keen eye to the whole problem and actively try to see. Yeah.
So Sanjay, you just briefly touched upon a key issue of VOC levels and indoor air quality. You gave the example of conference rooms and CO2. We have a very interesting question from Tanushri who has tuned in, and she asked, to what extent does uBreathe affect VOC levels, and what are the performance metrics for a product like uBreathe?
Sure. Actually, this is a very interesting question, and this is one of the things that we are also working upon. So there are very limited guidelines from government on how to test your efficacy of your solutions and things like that. So most of the time, all private companies, even including us also, we tend to do our own experimentations in some sort of control settings because air is a very moving phenomena. It has, and when you try to go and do real scenario test, there might be some moving variables as well. All there you might have the indoor air coming, outside air coming in, where you might also have air going outside the room and things like that. So what you can do is you try to set up a control setting for your experimentation. You tend to have a limited space wherein you can first collect and see what are the kind of contamination level you have at that point in time and how your product or solution is affecting the contamination level over a period of time. With our product uBreathe, we received fantastic results on VOCs as well, because the differentiation between our product and mechanical purifiers is that plant-based solution, they don't absorb these contamination, but rather they break TVOCs and complex hydrocarbons into smaller hydrocarbons, lesser complex hydrocarbons. And in fact, some of the hydrocarbons, they tend to break down into phosphates and nitrates. They become a food and nutrient for the plant as well. So that is the process through which plants absorb TVOCs and break down into the smaller, lesser harmful hydrocarbons. On the efficacy part of it, our product is, uBreathe is one of our first product. It's a flagship product. It works best for a smaller room, a smaller cabin, around roughly 100 square feet of an area. And, it is meant to run 24/7, you plug it in and forget it. So the best setting for our product would be the smaller rooms, smaller cabins. But yes, we do have flexibility on that, and we are working on larger version of our product as well.
Thank you so much, Sanjay, for those responses. And moving on to Prasad. Prasad, we have a question for you from the audience. People are interested in knowing that how much does the carbon collector would cost? And is it economical for the middle class person to afford? And how will you collect and replace each and every filled box? I think they are speaking about the Rep Air model also that we saw in the video. So if you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So the product line as of now is targeted on a B2B market. So if anyone is thinking that our product would fit in a living room, no, that's not the space that we are operating in. Basically, there is a retrofit product that is designed to curb the particulate matter pollution from vehicles and the diesel gensets. The other ambient air purifier is designed to be installed at places of large public congregations in cities. So these are typically bus stations, metro stations, where a lot of vehicles and as people also crowd up. So the entire particulate matter that is emitted by the vehicles is directly goes into the lungs of people there. So the repair would clean the air around that open space. So it is a product that is designed for open and semi-open spaces. But yes, there is also a development that is going in the organization where we are targeting hotels and semi closed spaces as well, because a lot of schools now, with COVID-19 being one of the biggest threats to our health in the near future, and it's currently we are all combating that. It would be also interesting to know that the repair has an ultraviolet passage, and UV, as you know, would is a very it's a very common technology to kill the ambient viruses and bacteria. So it also incorporates that. So going forward, we are trying to design something for schools where people, parents are a bit skeptical to send their wards to school, where COVID is still in place, we don't have a vaccine, and there are certain reservations of sending the wards in school. So that is one product that we are working on. But as of now, all our products are designed for the B2B model. So we are targeting the corporates and the government to get this particulate matter pollution in the cities.
Right. So, while you're answering that question, Prasad, just to continue, and then I'll take a quick round with the other speakers. If you could really speak a little bit more about the challenges that you as a startup or as an innovator face in this space. And if you can comment specifically on the non-financial barriers, because we all know that funding is always the barrier for startups. So other than that, if you can comment, that would be great. And in the same line, if you can also comment the role of the stakeholders, such as government agencies, civil society organizations. I guess a lot of people tuning in also want to know, like, what role can the civil society organizations play? So if you can answer that question, and then we will move to Sukhmeet to answer the same question.
Okay, on a broader level, the awareness about air pollution is less. So it is a menace that would affect the health in the long term. So anything that doesn't affect me immediately for a common man is not a concern. It is something that's not my problem. It is for the government to take care of. So that's a general attitude that most people share. But also there is a world full of people who want to bet their lives and get this problem in place. So if you ask for the support, I would just jump on and say that we've got the NCAP in place. We've got 102 cities that have been identified that we need to work really very aggressively if you have to meet the commitment that we made to the world. And there are also orders that have come out in the form of guidelines, like the one I mentioned around the genset retrofit. But the only challenge, Rosetta, for us is that these guidelines have kept open some gray areas. So there are no specific certification guidelines, as one of my colleague also mentioned. And there has to be some certification, a specific guideline that, okay, if you conduct the test of your device under a specific guideline that would be accepted on a national level, then every time for every conversation, we don't need to justify what our technology does. So it takes, the certificate itself takes care of what problem we are addressing. By that, we also limit the scope of the efficiency of a product. And it also takes a lot of confidence with us when it comes to the efficacy of the technology working to the problem that we are trying to solve. So guidelines, certifications, and a better execution of the existing guidelines will really help us.
Great response. Thanks, Prasad. So I'm asking the same question. Sukhmeet, if you can also speak about some of the challenges that you face and what you see the role of other stakeholders like civil society organizations and governments.
So I would say one of the biggest challenge we face is competing with fossil fuels. Specifically talking about coal, we get a lot of pet coke, which is a very harmful fuel to use. Most of the industries we fight in terms of, because pet coke is not used in other countries, it gets dumped in India, and then Indian industries use that because cost per calorific value is very cheap. So I guess one is give special incentives for biofuels when we say that we want to promote this use. For example, a country like Japan, power produced from biofuel sources is given the highest rate by the government as a buyback offer. Right? So these kind of incentives, I would say, when we compete with biofuels as a policy level, would really help us to match with the fossil fuels. And the second would be also, we also face a lot of technology challenges in terms of right machine to use. Most of this machinery either comes from Europe or from China. So we'd also like more Indian universities, R&D institutes to focus on some of these native technologies to process biofuels.
Sukhmeet, you mentioned a very interesting thing. You spoke about competing with the fossil fuel industry, and I was wondering when you were showing us your products as well, because you speak about a lot of alternate items, right? You're showing us a very nice green alternate journey of using green coal, energy pellets. So in terms of the resistance you kind of probably would be facing, can you speak a little bit about that, how much of your time and effort goes into technology? How much of it is really about capacity building and education? Like in case of Sanjay, he was talking about indoor air quality. So in your case, how would you break it down for us? And we would really like to hear openly about also the resistance you feel, or maybe it's an opportunity, I don't know, because you're producing a lot of alternate items that could be useful for the energy industry. So yeah, your comments, quick comments on that.
Yeah, so technology challenges we faced a lot first year, so we have overcome that. We have partnered with a lot of universities globally, which help us to solve our issues. Now the second point is the resistance from even good brands. When we go and talk about replacing fossil fuel, the first question get from the plant manager or the boiler operator is cost of generate with our fuel versus fossil fuel. So the real challenges, some understand that they are being part of the whole bigger solution of stubble burning, but ultimately specifically after COVID there has been a lot of pressure in terms of reducing our cost, at least matching with the fossil fuels. So I think that I don't know if at policy level the industry is incentivized to use biofuels instead of fossil fuels. There something could help. We are also I think talked a lot on helping us monetize the carbon credits. So we are facing challenge in terms of even monetizing or evaluating the carbon credits part of it. So that would help us to reduce our cost better. But I think at a government level, if some entity can help us even monetizing carbon credit, that could also help.
That's a great suggestion actually for a solution to come to this problem. So Sukhmeet, just one last question, because this is from audience to you. Can you please elaborate on your AI-based solution for crop burning? Which data sets did you use for this purpose? Sukhmeet, we can't hear you. Your video is frozen. So maybe if you can, hello?
Hello, yeah, Rosita, sorry.
Yeah, can hear you now.
Yeah, I'll stop my video. Sorry, Rosita, you'll have to repeat the question.
Sure.
I didn't get that.
Yeah. So can you please elaborate on your AI-based, artificial intelligence-based solution for crop burning? Which data sets did you use for this purpose?
So this we use just the plain satellite images on Google satellite. So we used approximately 300 images to train the model for identifying paddy straw. So one of the big problem was that once the crop is harvested, if we start meeting farmers then to save the straw, it's too late. What we do is we work with farmers 2 months prior to the harvesting. We first identify, and then we work with farmers 2 months prior to the harvesting that don't burn. We will come and collect the straw. Also, if we go to smaller fields, distributed fields for straw collection, it is a very time consuming and also a costly operation for us. What we do is we identify not only straw 2 months prior to our collection, but also identify bigger chunks of straw or paddy being grown so that we can go and collect there where our efficiency is much more improved.
All right. Thanks, Sukhmeet. So now moving on to Sanjay. Sanjay, if you can, answer our question, which is mostly related to, what plans do you have to, mainstream these innovations into the integrated sustainable development agenda? How can you make it inclusive, participatory? Right now, the pollution agenda is also in between so many sectors, right? It lies somewhere in the space of so many SDGs. We can connect it to the health issue. If we speak about the disability adjusted life in years, how much our life is reduced when we live in this area, then you can connect it to the environment agenda. So there are so many ministries that are kind of involved in our country in this problem. There's no one specific place. So how do you unite and how do you mainstream it into the sustainable development agenda? And how can we make it a little bit more inclusive and participatory? Just because the civil society, it affects them a lot. So that's why they're always kind of like looking for solutions. So quick thought from you, Sanjay, and then Prasad from you as well.
Sure. So Rajita, it's a very interesting question actually. So what personally I believe is that, generally people, government, private sector, everyone tend to see the air pollution problem as a collective problem, not as an individual problem. Nobody would say that air pollution is happening because of me, right? And that is the mindset that I personally believe has to be changed, that our own activities, be it, using your private vehicles, diesel engines and things like that, are really the contributor which goes on to build a larger issue at large. But yes, definitely to answer to probably have particular specific solution for this issue. Probably what we can do is we as a society, as a different stakeholders in the society, government needs to build some sort of guidelines around the air quality parameters for urban development and different households as well, so that people tend to think about and they start having a dialogue around the problem and issue at large. That would be the first step, and then we can jump onto this finding solutions, probably quick fix solution, looking at different angles. Sukhmeet solution and Prasad solution is fine example of those kind of solutions. So we need to start on having a first level dialogue for that. On that, I believe government has to play a major role, and apart from government, media also has to play very major role on this, creating a greater awareness at large. I've seen personally also in the COVID times, the awareness was quickly spread among the entire nation. And I believe similar kind of urgency should be shown towards this issue as well. Looking at different angles to the problem would be the second part of the question, but rather, let's try to initiate a first level dialogue for everyone. Everyone should understand that, yes, this is a major threat we are facing right now, and we should be doing something about it. Yeah.
Thanks, Sanjay. Thanks so much for that response. Over to Prasad. So Prasad, the same question to you as well. Your final thoughts on this topic.
The air pollution, unfortunately, doesn't have a single solution to find it. So we'll have to talk to different ministries. For example, we have to look at reducing the pollution near the metro station. We'll have to talk to Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. If I'm want to have a conversation with all the JAGRI units, for example, I'll have to talk to the Environment Ministry plus a Rural Development Minister, for example. So this parameter will always be part of the growth plan in the business, so to say. But as many stakeholders, everyone brings in their own perspective. Maybe we learn a lot from them. The only problem here is that a lot of time is wasted in doing rounds with a number of meetings, and then you have to sit convincing each and every one of them and give them what they really want. So that's one part of it. But yes, we'll have to work, we'll have to find our way to do it, and we are quite prepared. So it could be a local body like a municipal corporation giving us permissions to install the repair in Pune, for example. So as small as that. And then on the larger perspective, we could get into the JAGRI bit, or the civil societies could help us convince the corporates to spend a part of their CSR budgets and get JAGRI units up. So it is definitely a multi-pronged approach, and would solicit the the cooperation of all the stakeholders that are involved. So that's going to be a way of life. You'll have to talk to different people for different use cases.
Thanks, Prasad. So looking at the time also, it's perfectly on time. We would like to wind up with one final message that you might have for the innovation community. So Sukhmeet, first for you, your final words or message, supposing from your wish list, the person or the key stakeholder is here, what will you say to him or her? What is your key message or call to action?
Action would be make usage of fossil fuel less and look for more sustainable solutions, at least from an energy perspective.
Great.
Yeah.
Short and sweet. Sanjay, what about you?
Sure. So one final comment that I would want to make, Rosetta, would be, to see air pollution as an individual problem as well. Two households sitting next to each other might have very different air quality inside them. So we need to look the air quality as a personal problem. It could be a unique setting for everyone. So yeah, let's keep an eye open for these kind of problems. Yeah.
That's great. So from our side, it is a wrap now. We would really like to thank Sanjay, Prasad, and Sukhmeet for joining us today. It was a pleasure to host you all. And so many questions in the chat box still coming in. So you can also spend some time on the Verisian network website to see what kind of questions people are asking. And we really want to thank you for your time. And we look forward at UNDP India to work continuously with you over this year and to kind of try to team up and see how we can overcome this challenge. So over to Luke, and thanks so much to the speakers for today.
Thank you so much, Rosita, and everybody on the panel. It was really insightful, and I'm sure everyone found it really, really useful. And thank you very much for moderating that, Rosita. You did a fantastic job there.